Welcome to the Saratoga Springs Planning Commission meeting for June 24th, 2021. We'll start off with a Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll lead that. Will the audience please rise? And please repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. For roll call this evening, all members of the Planning Commission are here and accounted for. So the next item is for public input. Time has been set aside for any person to express ideas, concerns, comments, questions, or issues that are not listed as public hearing, as a public hearing on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment this week? Seeing how there is no one here to make comment, I'll close public comment at this time, and we'll move on to the public hearing for the Wildflower Community Plan, major amendment located approximately Mountain View Corridor and Wild Blossom Boulevard, Nate Ship, DAI, Utah, as applicant. And this will be presented by... Yes, Phil. Oops.
Yes, filling in for Tippy Moreland on this item. This is a public hearing. It is to amend the community plan as a major amendment. Now, just to clarify, we're not adding any new standards, but really what's happening here is we're taking the standards, the setbacks and whatnot, the bulk regulations that you see on the right, which is already in the village plan. We're just putting them back into the community plan. So basically that means anything that comes forward with a townhome or condo type project, we'll follow these standards that have already been adopted. Instead of adopting various standards for each village plan, they'll have to follow what's already in the what would be in the community plan, just to keep that uniform throughout future village plans that may have townhomes or condos. So it's just moving one standard we already have from the village plan back into the community plan, so all other future village plans follow those setbacks. And the findings, staff recommends approval, obviously, but you have your say in what you want, and with the findings and conditions in the report right now.
Okay. It doesn't look like the applicant is with us this evening.
I assume Tippy contacted Nate, maybe because it's such a minor issue. We're not doing anything new. We're not creating any new standard. Probably just thought he didn't need to be here.
All right. As we have no comment from the applicant, we'll go ahead and open this up for a public comment. Anyone here to make comment on the Wildflower Community Plan Major Amendment? Now's the time. Mic's open for you. As we have no one to make comment, we'll close the public comment at this time, and I'll turn this over to the commission for comment or questions. Commissioner Kilgore.
I just had a couple questions. On the conditions, condition number 1, I've never seen this kind of condition before, and I'm just wondering what it means, because it says that it is consistent with the goals. Wait, is that right? No, never mind. That's findings A. So guiding development standards have been included in this community and are not to be duplicated. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, so condition number 1 says guiding development standards have been included in this community plan and are not to be duplicated in a future village plan. And what is that? Yeah, I understand what it means, but I'm not sure what it means to this.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not sure what Tippy was getting at here. Perhaps it's just something that we don't need to worry about this time, because again, we're not creating anything new. It's pretty fairly narrow what we're looking at tonight as far as the amendment. Perhaps there's a carryover from a different major amendment.
Yeah, because I didn't want to make a condition that they couldn't duplicate the development standards in a village plan if we're passing a community plan right now. Which
how I read that as saying, well, if it's in the community plan, we don't need to put it in the village plan. Oh, is how I'm reading that. Why duplicate it? We have the
text,
the standard in the community plan. Let's not make the village plan document longer because we already have it in the community plan.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, and then on page 514 of the community plan where it talks about the setbacks. I guess it's the first page that's in the staff packet. Could you explain to me what this means? So, like on the top, it says setbacks, front yard, same as primary structure, side yard, 5 foot minimum, rear yard, 5 foot minimum. But then when you go to the table, to the general development standards, it talks about side yard being 15 foot minimum.
On which element here on the screen? Is it up what you're talking about up on here?
I think, no, that's, oh yeah, that is the same, yeah. And so, see on the, it's laid out differently.
That's the second that proposes the 15-foot right there.
Yeah. So on the general development standards, under is this because it's accessories? Oh, maybe that's why, because maybe it's accessory structures have different setbacks.
Yeah,
than
accessory will have different setbacks.
That's what it is. Okay, sorry, I didn't figure that out until I looked at it now. Okay, so accessory structures have different setbacks than the townhomes, apartments, and condos. So that's the reason why. Okay, that's all questions. Thank you. Sorry about, it was just my misunderstanding on that second one.
Any other questions or comments from the Planning Commission?
And I did get a text from Tippy, who's out. She said DAI was planning on being there. Didn't know, something must have come up. We don't know.
Okay.
So. Oh, you're DAI? Oh, okay.
Do you guys want to come up?
So I'm Caitlin Mickelson with UAI.
Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Caitlin Mickelson, 1008 West Loot Lane, Bluffdale, Utah.
Okay. Do you have anything you would like to add on the presentation?
No,
Okay.
that's covered it. So I understand your question. We've tried to simplify it and put whatever we put in the community plan, we're not duplicating in any village plan. So.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner McConkey, go ahead.
So this is probably more directed to to David Stroud there. Looking at definitions, has the city considered updating their definitions of building height? And being familiar with the current building code, the 2015 International Residential Code, we face this in another jurisdiction. There became a little bit of a conflict in some circumstances between definitions, building height being one of them. Just maybe a recommendation for the city to look at aligning the definitions that the city has in the city code with the residential code or the building or the international building code.
Aligning our definition with the building code definition?
Correct. Looking at, for example, on page 3 there, right next to height, for example, and I looked at code that quotes the city code, measured vertical distance from the established grade. I looked at the what is it called? Grade, established grade, and we don't have a lot of hillside lots here in the city, but we do have some and getting more, especially with some other developments. By aligning the definition with what's found in the International Building Code or the International Residential Code, establishes the grade, references grade plane, which is the average grade elevation within 6 feet of the building, and that helps to avoid some conflict and some challenges.
We can certainly, I'll write that, we can look at that.
Hillside lots. Yeah, and then what was the other one? Building height, and the other was a definition of townhome. So my recommendation would be to, in the future, reference definition, again, aligning, using the same definition found under townhouse in the 2015 International Residential Code, or whatever the current one will be.
And we'll look at that. That would be a separate, that's just would be a direction
Separate
for us
from
to
this,
look
it's
at.
just
Right,
something
wouldn't be
to
any
look
kind of
at.
motion on that.
Yeah,
So.
thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I move that the planning commission forward a positive recommendation to the city council for the major amendment to the Wildflower Community Plan located at approximately Harvest Hills Boulevard and Mountain View Corridor, based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions in the staff report.
We have a motion from Commissioner Anderson. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Commissioner McConkey. Any question on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Looks like the changes are unanimously passed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Next item is a business item for Tenney's Pizza site plan located 1453 North Summer Village Road. Kevin Tenney, applicant, planner David Stroud. Go ahead, David.
I sent Kevin the staff report, so he has that. Yeah, Tenney's Pizza, currently still in the city right now on the opposite side of Summer Village Road from the site. The site you see here in blue, currently zoned regional commercial. He'd like to bring in a new location and also build a building that can have a couple other tenants as well. Site plan you see here, it's currently lot 3 of Dana Orthodontics, an improved plat from several years ago. The lot is 28,000 square feet, and Kevin has proposed a building of just under 7,200 square feet. We've got 5,600 square feet of landscaping, and then 34 parking stalls, which 3 stalls in the drive-through count towards the required parking. And there will be the connection to the south to the Stonehaven Dental and Anytime Fitness. Elevations you see here comprised of EFIS, wood, metal, and of course some stone and of course glass. They were gracious enough. You see there on that top left elevation there, we asked that they add additional windows for the requirement of making the pedestrian-friendly environment, because that's what faces the street. And so they were able to do that, to add those additional windows there to give that more open feel to the side of the building. Then, of course, this will be the north and the south elevation you see here. What you have complies with the codes, various codes in that we have in the Land Development Code, and so staff recommends approval. You are the land use authority for the site plan, so it does stop with you. Lighting, you see here the various lighting designs they have, the fencing that will go along the north property line, and as well as the dumpster showing the metal panels, the self-latching gate, and the light designs they're using. Staff does recommend approval with the findings and conditions you see on the screen, and of course you have the option to continue or deny if you feel that it does not meet the code.
Okay, it doesn't look like the applicant is here. Again, I'll go ahead and turn this over for this. So this item is an administrative item.
Correct.
We are the land use authority, so that we need to make sure this meets code before we vote yes or no on it. There is no public hearing on this part.
Correct, it's just an administrative action.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the commission for questions and comments. You can push your button if you want to ring in. Commissioner Kilgore.
I just want to ask if you would know, Director Stroud, does Tenney's Pizza, are they moving? I think you said at the beginning. Are they moving, or are they just adding another location?
I assume it's going to, they'll vacate the premise. It's right across the street. I assume they've maybe outgrown that, or he wants to, be able to, maybe he doesn't own that part of the building. I don't know. But he just feels the need that to do a new building and bring in another business or 3 more businesses in the city with the tenant space he has. And so he's designed a good building there, and we're excited to see that come through.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other comments from the commission? Commissioner Barton.
Just because it's so boring tonight. No, mostly I just want to say what a valuable asset Tenney's Pizza has been for our city. I mean, they really have. I think it's great. I think it's awesome he's wanting to build a building, because it sounds like he's probably expanding a little bit. Like, they're doing great. So
And we've been working with Kevin for probably 2 years on this.
yeah,
So
I think they're fantastic. So that's all I want to say. No questions.
Okay, if there's no other comments from the commission, I'll open up for a motion.
I move to approve the proposed site plan of Tenney's Pizza at 1453 North Summer Village Road with the findings and conditions in the staff packet.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Commissioner Barton. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Looks like that passes unanimously. On to the next item. Thank you, Director Stroud. So this evening, we have some training on Open Public Meetings Act, and that's going to be presented by our Assistant City Attorney, Fred Donaldson. Thank you. Oh, let me turn you on.
That's part of the training.
Yes. Let's go. Now try.
Thank you.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity to present to you commissioners tonight. This is my first time giving this training to you, and I hope it will be as exciting as it sounds, the Open and Public Meetings Act. So we should be able to get through this pretty quickly. The general principle is that meetings of public bodies are open to the public and that deliberations should be had in front of the public. And you can see there that that is the intent of the legislature with the law. Meetings can only be closed for particular reasons, and we'll go through those a little bit later. And the law favors openness, and exceptions to open meetings will be strictly construed. So much like in the, I would call it maybe a sister act, the Government Records Access and Management Act, which is how people get records. Most records are public, and they want to favor transparency. And that's the same thing with this Open and Public Meetings Act. They want to favor transparency. So what is a meeting? Oh boy, we were supposed to take off all these animations. This could get slow if we have to do this. Oops. Okay. So a meeting is the convening of a public body with a quorum present. It's just a majority. It includes a workshop or executive session for the purpose of discussing, receiving comments from the public on, or acting on any matter over which the public body has jurisdiction or advisory power. It can be in person, electronic, or hybrid. Meeting does not include a chance meeting or social meeting, and it does not include certain kinds of meetings are also not included, but these would be pretty rare. A meeting that with a public body that has legislative and executive responsibilities where no public funds are appropriated, and the meeting is solely for an administrative or operational matter, and no formal action is required, and the matter would not come before the public. So that's going to be pretty rare that happens. Who is a public body? It's any body that was created by the Utah Constitution, a statute, rule, ordinance, or resolution that has two or more persons, that spends or is supported by tax money and has authority to make decisions about the public's business. So occasionally what will happen is there will be a question about whether or not, first of all, whether or not it's a meeting. You know, is the convening of a group, is that considered a meeting that needed to be noticed? And for the most part, there's no harm in noticing any kind of meeting that comes, before the Planning Commission or the City Council. Likewise, there's also a discussion sometimes when bodies are created, is it a public body that is subject to the act? And that's not really going to come up too often in the city. One discussion that we have had in the city is related to the DRC, the Development Review Committee. And in some cities, that's considered a public body and it is noticed. And in other cities like ours, we're not making, the DRC isn't really making, isn't advising anyone. It's not an advisory body, and it's not allocating funds for any purposes or anything. It's more of a coordinating body. And so we've made the determination here in our city that the DRC is not subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act because the DRC is not a public body. So the City Council, the Planning Commission, certain boards are, including the Library Board. There's notice requirements associated with public meetings. Generally, 24 hours of notice is required, and the notice needs to include the agenda, which has different items that are specific, and the body can discuss a matter that's not on the agenda, And so far, just I might note that so far from my observations of the Planning Commission, you guys have done a great job following the act, and so has the City Council. So, but the public body can discuss a matter not on the agenda, but cannot take final action on the matter at the meeting. The notice has to be posted in various locations and can be provided through other means. There are certain times where emergency meetings are allowed. It's probably not going to happen much with the Planning Commission. And in those instances, you don't have to abide by the regular notice requirements. And then there's some provisions related to emergency meetings. Minutes are required, and that's why we have Nikki here. She does a great job keeping our minutes, and I think we're going to, the next item after this is the approval of minutes from previous meeting. And so the minutes have to be pretty comprehensive, and again, Nikki has done a really good job with those. There are ways to satisfy the minutes requirement by linking to the public meeting, and the minutes are public and have to be distributed in certain ways. So the meeting also has to be recorded. An audio recording is what is required. It's not recorded. It's not required to be video. And Nikki also records these meetings, the audio of them. The recording is a public record under GRAMA, and within 3 days of the meeting, the recording has to be made available to the public. It's kind of funny that it says it just has to be made available to the public. It doesn't have to actually be posted anywhere, but we do that anyway. We post it in various locations. There are regs in GRAMA related to electronic meetings, and this came up kind of recently with the COVID pandemic. We had to do some changes to the statutes to allow for electronic meetings where there was no anchor location and no public participation at the anchor location, and that can only be done under certain provisions of GRAMA based on health and safety reasons. So if you have any questions about that, you can let me know. This is important, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but members of public bodies are not allowed to transmit electronic messages to each other during the public meeting. So it's kind of just a way to keep that transparency like we were talking about previously. Closed meeting. So meetings are open unless closed for certain reasons, and the decision to close the meeting is discretionary. And I don't know if we've had a closed meeting since I started. I've only been here a couple of months, but you probably have had closed meetings in the past. And these are the reasons that you can close a meeting: to discuss the character, competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, to discuss litigation, security personnel, devices and systems, to discuss an investigative proceeding regarding allegations of criminal misconduct, to discuss the purchase, exchange, sale, or lease of real property or water rights, if the discussion would disclose the appraisal or estimated value of the property, or if disclosing it would prevent the completion of the transaction on good terms, and then to discuss the sale of real property, water rights, or shares if the public discussion would disclose the value again, or prevent those terms, the favorable terms for the city. And I'm not sure that ever really comes up, or does it? I mean, I haven't been here long enough, and we haven't discussed the sale of any property before this body, as far as I know.
Not since I've been on the commission. We have had 3 different closed sessions, and they were all listed reasons that you've given us. But
if you ever have any questions about whether or not to close it, we can go through the statute and ensure that we're complying with that. So
usually Mark or someone will come in and tell us, or the city attorney will tell us that we need to have a closed session. That's what's happened in the past. I am curious to know, while we're on closing sessions, about if we did have an instance where the public got out of hand,
Yes.
how do we handle that?
So you can't close the meeting at that time, but you actually can ask that person be removed if their conduct is disruptive to the meeting. That's what you would do.
Well,
Let me check. I know I looked at this. And hold on, let me see if I say it, if it's on here.
hey, Commissioner Ryan, could you repeat your, I didn't have your mic on.
Sorry, I thought I had seen instances, I remember with the COVID-19 pandemic and mask and no mask crowds that like the Utah County Commission just motioned to adjourn meetings that got out of hand. So I think that's probably legally, I don't want to speak again for Mr. Donaldson, our attorney here, but I think that's the route you would go versus trying to close it, because I don't think that's a valid reason to close a meeting.
If you don't have an answer right now, you can get back to us on it.
I'm happy to do that. I did put a link at the end of the presentation to the Open and Public Meetings Act. And so if you want to look that up on your own, you can, or I can get back to you on that.
Okay. I think what I would also like to do probably is contact the mayor and maybe the city manager, because it seems like since the past year, there's been a lot more public disturbances at public meetings, and maybe we need to have a plan that we're aware of how to conduct ourselves and what we need to do if the meeting gets out of hand. I mean, tonight, it's not going to happen, obviously.
Why is, yeah.
Commissioner
Well, you
Kilgore,
never
did you have
know. Somebody here might.
Yeah, you never know.
So, yeah, I can get back to you on that. I know I looked at that and I just can't remember what it says. So,
Well, also, I wonder if we were to adjourn the meeting, what if there were other items on the agenda that we hadn't done yet, like minutes or something, and it said that we have to have the minutes approved by a certain amount of days or things like that. So I'm just wondering if there's some discretion or discussion that has to be made before you could adjourn a meeting.
So so I found the statute that I was looking for. It says, the chapter does not prohibit the removal of any person from a meeting if the person willfully disrupts the meeting to the extent that orderly conduct is seriously compromised. And what I would say related to adjourning the meeting, because it's so disorderly, is what you would be doing at that time is you would be continuing all the matters that were on the agenda until a future meeting. And that is certainly acceptable to do. And so you could adjourn a meeting without discussing the matters that were on the agenda if you felt like it needed to do that. You needed to do that. Does that answer that question?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so these are the things you cannot do during a closed meeting. You can't approve an ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment. You cannot interview a person to fill an elected position. You cannot discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an applicant to fill a midterm vacancy. You cannot take a final vote on a matter, and final votes must be open and on the record, except for the property sales meeting, the property sales issue that we discussed earlier. If it meets all those requirements, then you can do that. So. In order to close a meeting, there needs to be a 2/3 vote of the members present, and there has to be a quorum present in order to close the meeting. You have to hold an open meeting first before it can be closed, and then the body has to name all the members who are voting for and against the closed meeting and the reasons for holding the closed meeting and the location of the closed meeting. And the closed meeting has to be recorded just like the open meeting is too. There are penalties for violations. A knowing or intentional violation is a Class B misdemeanor. Courts can void any actions taken in violation of the Open Public Meetings Act, but a violation can be cured in a subsequent meeting. So, for example, say you did have a closed meeting and you voted on something at the closed meeting, that would be voidable. It would be invalid to do that. But if you held a subsequent meeting and then an open meeting and had that listed as an agenda item and had another vote at that time, even if it was the same, you voted the same way, that would cure that violation, if that makes sense.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
Closed meetings need to be recorded. Are the recordings available to the public, or is there like a different process they have to go through?
Nikki, do you know, are closed meetings?
Closed meeting, the record for a closed meeting is the audio. There are not written minutes of a closed meeting, and they would have to be requested through Brown.
Okay.
Thanks. Nikki bailed me out on that one, so.
Question, if there is a, say, for example, a sale that would be compromised, of that, is there a time frame that is required to, like a minimum 30 days before a grandma request can be submitted on something like that?
I don't believe so. There's always the chance to that a grant could be denied for some reason.
Yeah, grandma has its own provisions related to protected and private information, and that's probably one that would be protected.
Yeah, makes
So.
sense.
Yeah, if somebody comes and challenges an Open Meeting Act issue and prevails, whoever lost that challenge would have to pay, or may have to pay, attorney's fees and court costs for that. So there's quite a bit of an incentive to try to comply with the Open and Public Meetings Act, and for the most part, I think our public bodies do a great job, and most public bodies statewide. It's enforced by the Attorney General or a county attorney or a private citizen. Party has 90 days to file a suit to void an action, and only 30 days to file a suit to void an action concerning a bond, note, or other debt. So this is all from the Grandma Code. Any further questions that this body has related to the Open and Public Meetings Act?
So I was wondering how long ago this act was passed by the state legislature, because I remember like 15, 20 years ago, there's all kinds of disagreement about whether the state legislature should go into a closed session to decide important things. That hasn't happened as much anymore, but I'm wondering if it's new. Relatively new.
2006,
Oh,
this
so it
was
is relatively
passed.
new.
Relatively new. Yeah.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Talking about official record, I didn't quite read everything that was on your slide there, but so in the case, in a court case, is it the written record or the recorded record that is used?
The minutes of the open meeting are the official record.
Okay.
So that is the official record.
So if for any reason there is a conflict between the recorded record and the minutes, adopted minutes, then it's the written adopted.
The only way you would get to the recording is if there was ambiguity in the minutes.
Okay.
So if the minutes, it wasn't clear what happened in the minutes, then you could go to the recording.
Okay, thank you. Another question is regarding meetings. If two council members or commissioners meet for lunch and discuss an upcoming agenda item, is that considered bad form, or is it considered a meeting, or what is that
It's not a
considered?
meeting. There's no quorum. There's only two members there, so that's not a quorum. You could discuss anything.
Okay,
It's not a meeting. So,
thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
thank you, commissioners. I appreciate your service here. I mean, again, I just have to compliment each and every one of you for being here tonight, knowing that, there wasn't much going on, but we still have a full house and the whole commission is here. So I think that's really, really great that you all showed up tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for your training.
Okay, next item is approval of minutes. Does anyone have any corrections they'd like to give to our city recorder?
Say that you were.
But you can still vote on it. You had ruled that some time ago. If there's no other corrections, then I'll go ahead and open for a motion to approve the minutes for June 10th, 2021.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the minutes from June 10th, 2021 for, I don't have anything in front of me. My computer's not working. Is that good enough?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a motion from Commissioner Barton. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wagstaff. All in favor, or do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, that passes unanimously. Commission comments. So any commissioners have comments that they'd like to give tonight? All right.
Just a thank you again for that training. Appreciate that. Clarified some concerns that I had.
Thanks. Director Stroud had to leave. He wanted to see one of his son's last baseball games, so I don't blame him for that. So, Ken, do you have anything you'd like to? I'm not sure your mic was on.
No, I don't have anything.
Now it's on. There we go. Okay, thank you. I don't think we have a need to enter into a closed session. So we will stand adjourned until July 8th, 2021. Thanks.
Short and sweet.